What's up, beautiful souls? I want to bring perspective to the concept of truth. I was having deep conversation with a friend yesterday and discussing this whole concept of his truth, her truth, the reality, and the shit that's happening in our world and how we've got here. Because nothing's been based in a factual reality. And I'm all about philosophy. I'm all about curiosities and, what is truth. Admittedly, probably a lot of my roots have always sprung from that perspective, which I always felt was admirable. And if anything, my creator would be probably proud of me, right? 'Cause they gave us a brain to think, to explore. The answers are always within. Yet there's a double-edged sword to that, because when we ignore reality, a world of chaos, dysfunction cultivates. And there's some people that don't struggle with this concept at all. Like, they're just very blatantly obvious and straightforward. And then there's other individuals, kind of like myself, that maybe struggle at times to speak truth, because actually the truth of the matter is I'm not ignorant enough to admit that I know the truth. Wrap your head around that one. And in that stance, I am one to research and hear both sides of the debate, perspectives, cross-reference, whatever it may be. Try to really grasp a deeper understanding before I come to a truth. But the problem with this, especially some blatantly like obvious truths, for instance, man or woman. Now this is going to piss some people off. But the fact of the matter is that you were probably born, other than the very rare cases, with either male genital parts or female. Like, that's, we have the chromosomes, we have all of that. That's what it is. Now, we all do carry divine masculine and feminine energies within our vessel, but you were born either female or male. And that right there, that simple statement, is enough to fuel hatred in today's society. And is it worth the fight? Is it really detrimental to let somebody have their own perspective and their own truth? Is their own soul's journey, right? Yes. Until that becomes a norm and truth becomes illusioned, soaked in an illusion, distorted, into that of, programming. And which is a key point, because many of us are trying to break out of a program, let alone to be inducing a new program that's full of more illusions to our innocence, to our children, that are trying to understand how the world works. So often I use the word agenda because there's a purpose behind it. Again, speaking yesterday, how often in the beginning of all of our healing is there a reference to know thyself? Know thyself. And the more you're disconnected from thyself, even to the basics, the more confused and distorted and chaotic your reality is. What is truth from fiction? And how much are we serving when we allow these simple facts to not become a big deal and to let it roll. So what I was trying, ultimately, at the point of this, and in reflection, I'm reminded of how truth really does set you free. And the act of truth is a service. And truth is love. It will set you free. And the best example I have coming, because I take everything from spiritual. This is why, for me, I have to apply it to a spiritual aspect, right? And when it comes to truth, many of you guys know I was in a very toxic relationship at one point, and I had been praying. It was covert abuse. I had no idea what the hell was happening, right? And I would pray for guidance and to understand why I was falling into this toxic, depressive, losing the soul, essentially. Like, I felt like I was drowning. And my spirit team would ultimately lead me to evidence that one would say, you're not crazy, and this is what's happening, and you need to get out. And that truth really distorted, like really screwed with my head, because it didn't fit the narrative of what I had built up to what I had conceived. It destroyed my reality. It destroyed everything I knew. And I remember bawling, right? In the very onset of healing. In the very beginning, the breakup, the losing the home, losing, the potential spouse, the everything I thought, right? I had constructed in this frame of mine, and I'm bawling. And I remember, I'll never forget this, guys. Bawling, and I just am asking Spirit, like, what the hell am I supposed to do now? What do I do now? And they would say so simply, and it caught me off guard. It caught me off guard. It was so simple. Celebrate. Celebrate. And that hurt. It hurt because here I am bleeding my heart out, and my whole world is turned upside down, and it's destroyed everything I had thought I knew. I felt like that was I felt like that was not compassionate. I felt like they were being blunt, mean. I couldn't believe Spirit was saying that to me. To me, I felt like, can't you comfort me? I wanted to be coddled. I wanted something to make me feel better about the lie I had been living. And only after my full healing and reflection, I get what they were saying. Celebrate. Celebrate, for you are no longer living a lie. Celebrate, for you are no longer living in ignorance. Celebrate, because now you know the truth. And now you get a choice. Now you know. And all the while, Spirit always had my back. They always have your back. But that's the problem with truth, right? It's uncomfortable, especially if it doesn't fit the narrative we have constructed. And we are in a world right now where we are so much about his truth, her truth, defending ideologies that of things that we have conceived to be true. And there may be aspects of that idea that actually is true. But if it's not built on solid foundation, it's going to crumble. And in our defense, we block ourselves from hearing truths. Is that bias. It's looking for a confirmation bias, right? What you seek, you will find. If you want to continue to seek a certain narrative, you will find it. And so, bringing it all full circumference, what has at points stopped me? One, I don't want to be a bringer of shattering dreams, ideologies, because I know what that feels like. It's like shit. But then in the same breath, to lie is a disservice too. If Spirit had lied to me and they chose, I could have been praying and praying, and they're like, well, let's not show her the evidence because that will destroy her. And she could just continue welding away and feeling abandoned, but at least she'll still have this. And after I was led to the evidence, you still get a choice, right? You can still go back to that false reality, or else you can face the truth, face the darkness, face the heartbreak, and rebuild, which is what it's all about. And so for those who struggle because they don't want to hurt anybody, right? We need to redefine compassion. Compassion doesn't mean that you have to be kind or you can be kind, but compassion doesn't mean that you have to coddle. It doesn't mean that you have to lower or twist a truth to make somebody feel better. You're doing a disservice, right? The truest act of love is standing in truth. And for myself personally, my biggest fear is that I recognize I don't know all the truth. But it was as if Spirit reminded me. It's like because I've removed myself and I have questioned everything to a point that I may even have a bias, and I constantly ask Spirit to please humble me if I am wrong. And I think it's actually Jordan Peterson that says it too. Like, you've got to be courageous enough to stand in factual truth based on the facts, and receptive enough that when brought forth with evidence that you are wrong, that you can be humble enough to accept that, to reconstruct a new reality, the new evidential, right? So I think we need to transfer truth into facts, because we all have a truth based on a perception, and we all know that our perception is based on our experience. And if we haven't had many experiences, then that's limited. We are on very eggshell territory, but we're not in the same breath, right? It's things like the man or woman, okay? Because that's kind of like the new thing that's out. The fact is that there's a male and there's a female. And in each vessel of these temples holds a spirit, which holds divine masculine and feminine energy, and one may be more predominant than the other. But that doesn't necessarily mean that's a soul's journey. And however that soul's journey transpires should come naturally, but without being induced, I suppose. And those things that frustrate and piss people off, I guess that's a trigger and welcomes an opportunity for healing. And I say that tenderly out of love, but that's the truth. See where I'm coming with this? So I wanted to share that because I guess my biggest struggle with standing in truth or factual truth is recognizing that, especially the more I've discovered and relearning shit, I really don't know shit. Like, I've been, call it red pilled, and continue. And there's so many, this is another thing I was speaking with a dear friend. There's so many different rabbit holes. What rabbit hole do you want to choose to go down, right? Because everything we've learned, everything we've been born into has been basically a lie. But as we break through that and we step into truth, we do so for the next generation. Thus, the acceleration, new earth, second coming, Christ-like consciousness, whatever that correlates to you. But we are ascending. But we can only do that through truth. And through truth comes the act of love. And love is the path to ascension. I have so much love for you guys. So much love. Be brave to speak facts, and receptive enough and willing enough to not be attached to anything, to continue to build, and be curious enough to question all. Namaste.